evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on the Premium Business Masterclass that we bring to you every single Thursday evening, with our beautiful team here, the Launch It Studios team, in partnership with the Holland Life Insurance Company, and then also the history of the show. We're broadcasting again for the first time on Twitter. All our beautiful listeners and those who are viewing all over the country, why don't you go ahead and let us know where you are watching this show from? We build this show because we want to give you the inspiration that you need in your career and also in building your business. We have so many amazing updates that we are going to be giving to you to ask me questions about how it was, what did I learn, what did I teach, and what do we have in store for you. Like I said, this is a show that we bring to you every Thursday evening, courtesy of the Launch It Studios, Stanbic Bank, and Holland Life Botswana. We'll be right back.
Let's find new ways to make dreams possible. Whether you are dreaming about starting a new business, securing a good future for your family, buying a new home, or owning a new car, your dream becomes real the moment you believe it can be. Go ka kgonega with Stanbic Bank Botswana. Your dreams matter. Let's find new ways.
And welcome back in today's episode of the Premium Business Masterclass. And as I said, I think we should start, with a quick update on how you guys have been so supportive to what we are doing. And on the 18th to the 20th of August, we were in the mountain kingdom of Lesotho, and we had an amazing time there. And I want to take the time to also update you on what is happening. I'm also going to talk about the book that you've been buying all this throughout this week. The Think Like an Entrepreneur, Act Like a Prostitute. A lot of you have already sent in questions, and you're asking so many beautiful questions that today I'm going to also take the time to also address some of those. But if you have anything that you would like me to also address on today's show, why don't you, tweet that below, or you can also put in the comment box whether you're watching on LinkedIn or Facebook, in my page on Facebook, or the Premium Business Masterclass Facebook page, wherever all of these platforms are, wherever you understand in today's show. So I'm going to be starting with what was going down in Lesotho the last weekend. First of all, I want to take the time to thank the King, El Lesotho, and then also thank all the team that was involved in putting that tour together. We left with my team on the 18th. We went in, I think I should say this, they're watching wherever they're watching. Some of them, it was their first time flying in their life. And then others, it was their first time also it was their first time in OR Tambo. Others, it was their first time crossing border. Okay, they've crossed borders, but not the way. The last time they did was like when they were children, and it was my first time in the Kingdom of Lesotho. It was exciting. For those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, we are currently on a tour around Africa. It's called the GJK Africa Tour, and this tour has been designed because I'm very passionate about empowering young African entrepreneurs. And when we got to Lesotho, the thing that we had in mind was to say, what can we do to steer up conversations that matter, conversations that would inspire people. We didn't know what went down was going to go down. That's what I'm going to be talking to you about today. So when we left on the 8th, I think we left on the 18th, we arrived on the same day. And when we got there, we were welcomed beautifully by our host university, which is what University Maseru, which was exciting. And we had a chance. I had a meeting with the dean, which is the overseer of the school. I saw how beautiful Lesotho is, the landscape, the weather is so cold, from the airport and so on and so forth. So all of those things were happening and taking place, in Lesotho. So I didn't know, which is part of what I'm going to talk about. I didn't know there's so many people, real people, who watch shows like this, who follow the posts that I put out, who, enjoy seeing us doing the work that we're doing. And part of it made me ask myself the questions of how many times a lot of us, when we see us not getting the feedback that we want to see ourselves getting in this country or in the community that you exist in, that a lot of people, you don't seem to get traction. So today I'm going to help you understand, because I have had an experience of being in that country. I think my first highlight was when we landed on the 18th. So we rented a car, so we drove down into the city of Maseru, and there was this part where there was I think it's some shopping complex there. There's all sorts of shops there, wholesale shops, but there's a KFC there. So my team and I, we went into that KFC and we sat down, and as we were eating, one of the ladies who works inside KFC, walks up to us, and she asked me, "Are you Mr. Khutsafalo?" Now, this is happening in Lesotho, and I've never seen this person in my life. And she introduces herself, "Hey, my name is Mabato. A friend of mine follows you. She's been talking about you. I started following you as well." And she's mesmerized that she's seeing me for the first time in her life also. And this is happening in her country. So that thing, we had a conversation about it. We did a podcast actually about this with my team. And we were talking about how surreal this is, that you meet someone in another country. You have like 5 minutes in, and already somebody is able to recognize you. I had no idea that what was happening on Friday morning was going to happen. And we had a beautiful night. Shout out to DJ Quizzy, who's one of Lesotho's one of greatest, inspiring young people. He was a radio host, he's a radio DJ, such a celebrity as well, and he's such an influencer as well. He's doing so much work in Lesotho in the space that we are also working in. So he organized that we have this beautiful accommodation. And when we woke up in the morning, I was set up to go to the radio station, at the ultimate radio station, which is like, for those of you who are in Botswana, it's like RB2. It's a state-owned. It's a state-owned, like what you're seeing now. This is a state-owned radio station, and it's like RB2 in Botswana. And then so we got there, and I get to this lady that you just saw in the picture. Her name is Bonita, and she's the radio host who was there 7:30 in the morning, and we're having this conversation with her, and she was asking me sort of different questions about entrepreneurship, what are we doing in Lesotho, and we talked about it. From that moment, having that reception, it sort of like started kicking in that we have just transitioned into certain types of people in that country. And then we drove to where the venue was. This was a CRC hall, amazing. And I must say this, I've seen churches in Lesotho, kudos to you guys. I've seen the building, the Assemblies of God. Man, a beautiful building, the CRC hall as well, beautiful stuff. And I went there, and my team drove up on time at 9. We were there, and they get into the hall, and I was in the car, so they go into the hall, they see everything, check if everything is correct, and then when we were there, so before we got in, I asked them, so how many people are in the hall? They're like, there's about 3 people, and all of them, the other guy is a sound guy, the other guy is the host, the other guy is driving them. So you see how the mind works. You'll be like, hey, imagine this is like 500 seats in that hall, and it's 20 minutes before the event, and it starts to ring in your mind, who do you think you are to come into a different country where you know nobody, and you even dare to fill up a hall with 500 seats in it. And those thoughts started to come into my mind, and I ignored it because I know how this thing works. So my team and I would drive out to where I was going to meet the dean of Both University, Dr. Abhishek, and we sat down, we talked, and then they drove us back to the venue. And I tell you this, and I don't lie, I was mesmerized by what I saw, because I'm walking in with the entourage, my team, the team from Botu, the guys that are taking pictures, my camera crew as well, and we're going in. And when we're going in, I'm seeing all of these seats filled up to capacity. Young people from different universities coming together. IDM was there, Limco Queen University was there, there was also the Center for Accounting Studies, Botu University was there, packed, the entire hall packed, it wasn't there. And I'm walking through this crowd, and they set up a nice, table in front, and we get there and we sit down. And then when we're seated down there, I begin to start to reminisce on what I'm seeing. And I don't want to put it in a way in which, because sometimes people think this is an imposter syndrome speaking in me, but it's not. It used to speak, but not now. What kept playing in my mind is how real this is, that my mother's son from Mahalape would have the honor that my team and I were given in that country. Not because sometimes when you're told there's a guy from another country coming to your country, it feels exciting, and then you want to go see who that guy is. And I thought that was one of the things that was happening. And I sat there, and even when they called me up to come and speak, the whole time my mind was like, do you really see what you're supposed to see? And I kept having this conversation with myself to say, what am I supposed to see? And God began to talk to me about it, that the mistake that a lot of us make is to allow our background of where we come from to define how far we think we can go. And some of you right now, even when you want to go to these countries, you want to launch out your books and get out there and do all of this amazing work, you're still held back because of these things that you know yourself to be. And understand, because that's the natural state of the mind of a human being, where you're wondering to yourself, what happens if I go to South Africa? What happens if I go start out in New York? Are there people there that are willing to receive? Now, I remember what Ms. GK said. She said, every time you post your content into all these platforms, every time you do all these amazing things, there are people that see your work that you don't know about. The people that read the stuff are seeing those things, and they are desiring in their hearts that, this is the kind of a content that I want. And they wish to meet you one day. And I think for me, the key highlight was in following what I do from my home country. I'm not saying you're not real people. You are real people, and you've been a great support. In fact, the real reason why I believed long enough to go there is because of some of you who keep on constantly saying, hey, thank you for doing this, doing that, go there. This is God bless you, go there. And you are praying for me, and I appreciate all of that. But I know how it feels like, again, to be in a country where you have no reason to have anybody show you any level of honor. And they did. And here's the thing, I listened to the stories of those young people, mostly women, who have been following what I do for almost 4 or 5 years now. And for them, and I remember I had this conversation with one of the young ladies there, because I think I also posted about it, that, like I was saying, there are things that when you put out, like if it happens to you, like it does happen to me, I don't, have these conversations where, for example, people will be like, when you are putting something on Facebook, it's because something was happening, therefore you are trying to react to it, or you are trying to respond to someone. I don't post like that. I post because I will be seated like I am now, and God begins to inspire me in a certain direction. I could start thinking of single mothers and how the struggle is real, and I connect with it because I was raised by one. And I know how it feels like to be a child who grew up in a house of a single mother. And I started to, think up and imagine and connect with the story. And God says, I want you to start talking to single mothers out there, and this situation needs to be addressed. And I started writing about it. And this is the LinkedIn page. If you're not on my LinkedIn page, go on my LinkedIn page, go to my newsletters, you'll read all those long posts. So I put out those stuff. And those ladies, each and every one of them, were referring me to something I've posted before. Another one says to me, dude, the night I finally decided that I was going to kill myself, a friend of mine shared your post that was talking about exactly what I was going through, and I read it. And she says when she was reading this particular post, she felt like, somehow a very heavy weight was lifted from her. And she says she started feeling, happy again. She started having this kind of hope and so on and so forth. So I sit there because sometimes I make fun of such moments when people are telling me, I'll be like, nah, don't worry about it. But God said, just sit down and listen to what you do means to certain type of people. You see, you could listen to this and you're like, somebody, saved somebody's life. But think about it for a minute, what that actually means. There's an individual who would have lost her life because the pressures of life, because of so many different elements, people, and these are things I'm also going to talk about today. People that have decided that there is no positivity that they will ever share with anyone. People that see you do what you do, they don't even know you, but when they look at you, they just feel like they're supposed to hate you. And they don't even hide it from you. Even you, when you're looking at yourself, you're wondering, what have I done to all of these people? And you have this big dream of saying, I want to go this way, I want to do this for myself, I want to do this. And just because of that decision, you seem to bring all of this hate and sabotage and all this type of experiences to yourself. There are people that somehow find a way to, survive all of those. But there are so many people that you've killed their self-esteem. You've bruised, began to start believing that about themselves. They can't dream anymore. They can't do the things I wanted to do anymore. The other one was telling me that before I met your post, she was going through a phase where she was even hiding from the world. She would wake up in the morning, she would bath, but then when she thinks about going out there to face the world, and then she realized that, you know what, I can't go, and she sits down in her house. She doesn't go anywhere. You want to go apply for a job. All of these voices come into those people. And I think for me, this whole trip was primarily centered around understanding all of these things. Of people, that the work that we call little work that we do here actually does for those type of people. Do you know how it feels like for somebody in their 40s and their 60s walk up to you and they say, hey, you don't know me, but I know you. I bought a copy of your book. I don't know if you remember this. Just talk about some event that happened some years ago. And she says, at that particular moment, I was told at work that we are going to be retrenched. And I know all the mortgages that I have, and I know all the children that I have. And all of these things, like life literally was as if everything was going to end anytime soon. In fact, the most, potent option that seemed to be real at that particular time was killing themselves. And they say, I took out your book, I started to read it, and then, because what I love the most, what gets me the most, is how they feel about themselves change. Forget all of this that they say, like this lady will be like, see, right now, open 2 businesses, I've done this, I've taken my children to school, I've this, I've that. I love all of those things, but for me, the most important part of it is that somebody was able to change how she feels about herself. Because you're apart, and you contribute to those things. It looks okay to you. I mean, you can just go ahead and say, hey, and then this and that, you pull this and that and that. You don't know what it does to the heart of somebody else. And I thank God that I had the experience of going to that country and meet the people that when God said post about this, and I did, and they read all of this stuff and somehow it changed their lives. So I want to take a quick pause and really invite you as well, to contribute to the conversation. Put the comments down, the questions down, everything that you want to talk about. And for those of you who you've become victims of all of these toxic people, and you're living in this, you're living with this hate in your heart. And then some of you will be like, why are we talking about all these things because this is a business and entrepreneurship? Sure, it is. Some of you, you know deep down that where you are now in your life isn't where you really can or supposed to be. You know all of these things that people say about you and give you all these accolades and applause and say you are doing great. But the truth is, you know deep down in you the things that you know you can't do because they are things locked up in your heart that you believe about yourself. The moments that you're still stuck up in those moments, some few years ago, I've seen this person graduated with a merit at University of Botswana, top of the class, brilliant person. It's a lady as well. And she says, look, I got this job because my grades, my professor is the one who told people, and then that's how I got the job. But every time there's a promotion that comes at work, there's how I feel about myself, how unworthy, and all of this, all of these different emotions come into her, and she's been stuck in the same position for years. And I ask her what is wrong, and she finally tells me it's an incident that happened when she was 9. We're talking about somebody who is 45 years old. And this is still true. The reason why you don't believe you have it in you to become an entrepreneur or to actually just express the thought that you have, it's not something that is new. Even when you were in class, when you had an answer for the question asked, what stopped you from lifting your hand and say that answer? The same time when you have this idea and you shy away from getting out there and actually launch your dreams, what do you think is going on? This is what today's show is about. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to be dealing with your questions and comments, everything that you're putting in. And everybody in Lesotho who was part of this event, thank you guys for coming out. I actually thought you were going to be like 100, at most maybe 200 in that hall. But to see all the 500 of you in that hall was a beautiful, amazing experience. Even at the masterclass that we did with those aspiring entrepreneurs, business owners, young professionals, you came out, you are part of all of this. It gives me the confidence to think about what is going to happen in the rest of the African countries that you're going to go to. We'll be right back.
You and your loved ones back on track when life hits a short left. Better futures start with Holland. For all of life's big and small moments, Temper Holland Insurance Botswana. Our wide range of insurance products guarantee to get you and your loved ones back on track when life hits a short left. Better futures start with Holland. Dreams possible. Whether you are dreaming about starting a new business, securing a good future for your family, buying a new home, or owning a new car, your dream becomes real the moment you believe it can be. Khutsafalo with Stanbic Bank Botswana. Your dreams matter.
A lot of you know what's been happening. I'm not talking about what's happening in that part of the country. Today was the official launch of the new, I don't know if I should say Eureka or Eureka store. I don't know how you guys pronounce that. Eureka store in Block 3. So I got invited to go there and be part of this. Honorable Khutsafalo was officiating. And some of you probably wonder, well, we want to talk about the Eureka. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the fact that they've been a wholesale for years, Trident, the mass cash company. It's a billion rand business. And I want to talk about it because for all of you who come from Mahalape, you have a story that has a Eureka in it. And my mom worked behind Eureka. There's a bar in Mahalape called MT. and Eureka was the, because I think in Mahalape, right across Eureka, there is another wholesale there. It's called, it used to be called Metro. I still call it Metro. I think it's Fala now. They keep changing. Yeah, have Metro. And I walked into this new Eureka store, and I met the senior brand manager for Mass Cash. Amazing team, the work that are doing, and they asked me to ask you to go there and see what they have. There's a promotion that's going on between today and the next 7 days. So most things are half price. And I saw a bundle of moroho going for $2.95. I've seen like 2 kg of apples going for like $9 or so. I know you've seen amazing other prices somewhere else, but I think I should pass this message that if you are in Gaborone and you need to do grocery right now, Eureka will be the best place to go there. And yeah, so as I was saying earlier, today let's focus on this thing. The creative ability of a human being is based on a few elements. One of these elements is to quantify, to process what you are seeing, such that you want to do. You say you're a musician, where do you get the new songs from? I think there's this space where a lot of people feel stuck in life, whether you're in a career or you're running a business. There's this space in your business that when you've started, you find yourself at the space where you can't think, anymore. Everything is familiar to you. You're used to this singular routine of how you do things. It's not exciting anymore, to be doing what you're doing. And part of this is because it affects every other element that talks to what you are doing. It affects the sales. It affects your passion towards the same business. Motivational speakers, they would start telling you that the same passion that you started with should be the same passion that you use to continue. And what they don't explain is what I'm about to teach you here today, that when we talk about the word passion, a lot of us, we associate it with the emotion of excitement and being flabbergasted. And it almost titillates you. You feel excited about the fact that, let's say, you received a new idea. And the reason why you want to do it is because there's this joy and excitement in your heart that says, hey, go after your dream. And where does this excitement comes from? It comes from the fact that your mind recognizes that you have never thought about this and you struggled because it was some sort of like an embargo in your life. And suddenly a light bulb switched and you are able to see the other side. And that recognition of the fact that there's a new door in your mind that's been opened, it's where that excitement and joy actually comes from. And because now it's like you recently bump into a Netflix account and you are used to watching movies in your laptop, you download here, you do that, wanted to watch. The fact that you also wanted to be on Netflix before, you are seeing all the things that you want to do. The same excitement that builds in your heart, which is fueled by a hormone called dopamine in you. That dopamine is what pushes your adrenaline to want you to get to the place where now you want to implement the idea. Now, what happens is a lot of people, the moment this excitement, which is the reduction in the dopamine excretion into your body system, goes down, you start feeling low level of joy concerning the same idea that you want to do. It's like people who every now and then, when they get to chat with a new person on social media, some guy just randomly lands into your DM. The same dopamine kicks in and you feel the excitement and the joy of chatting with this guy. But after a few days of knowing his usual, hey, hi, hey, pumpkin, this and that, there's going to be a day when he says, hey, pumpkin, it doesn't give you the same level of joy that it used to at first, because now you can start to predict that, yeah, it's about 7:30, he's about to hit your ADM, and he does. And for a lot of people, they use that to determine the longevity of how far they can go with the thing. Because in their mind, they think that the moment I don't feel this, it's a sign that I shouldn't go forward. In relationships, this is when they start to call you for a meeting where they will tell you, it's not you, but it's them. And people do the exact same thing with their projects, with their businesses. Every year, they have a new project they're starting. They've got a new book they're writing. They've got this that they're doing. They've got this that they're doing. And all of these things, if they were like apples in a fridge, if you had to open where they've been packing all these other apples, you'll find hundreds of apples sitting at Tilo Nyana, all of it. Because once you see a new one, you're excited about it. And this is the same thing that you do always. Now, like I said, this is the passion that gets some people to get to implement their business ideas within the time that they're excited. This is why there are so many other books. For example, you get an idea of whatever patentable project. So you have to get a business name for it, do something, design a logo, do something, because now you're still taking steps while you're still excited about it. I mean, there's so many ways to do that. I'm not going to talk about the strategies of how, that's not what I want to talk about. I want to explain to you what's going on, because it's going to help you going forward in your entrepreneurship. Now, there's another version of the word passion, which is similar to what you saw in the movie, The Passion of Christ. And that passion is also fueled by another emotion. And it's not the emotion of excitement and joy. It's the emotion that recognizes that it doesn't matter how I feel about what I'm about to do. The purpose of why I'm supposed to do it is what pushes you to do what you're supposed to do. Now, this is the same thing that you see with people that have enrolled for, weight loss programs, those who have enrolled for all sorts of things. Because when you're excited by seeing gym machines around, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm part of a gym, and you kept coming because you're like, haha, I'm not part of a gym, and things get real within the gym. More than half, if not 70 or 80% of the people, they don't continue with the gym because now they are wondering to themselves, what's next going forward? And this is the one thing that differentiates between people that become successful in business and those that are not successful in business. This is something that differentiates people that go far in business and those who don't go far in business. Because, like I said in this book, the Black and Yellow book, that the magic is not in starting the business. The magic is in keeping the business going. And to do that, most of it is fueled by your understanding of the difference between these two words, or the two different. When you say speaking is your passion, what are you talking about? When you say serving people is your passion, what are you talking about? Do you mean it's something that gives you some sort of excitement to do? When you say the business that you started is your passion, what are you talking about? Because some of you before, there's one person who's probably wondering, but wait, isn't my passion supposed to give me some form of catharsis and excitement in what I'm doing? It's supposed to. We'll talk about it. And that, which is what you're asking yourself, it's a result of what you build on the other version of the word passion, which is building the discipline that you need to sustain the goal and the dream that you want to do. Where you don't fall in love with the outcome of what you are doing, say a gym, for example, or a soccer match. You're not in love more with the match, which is on the match day, but you are more in love with the practice time when you are now building the skill and sharpening your skill of knowing how to kick a ball. Because the discipline that keeps you on the practice field, which helps you excel in the match day, that's where passion is built. Now, a lot of people would say, and I'm speaking to people today specifically, those who find themselves starting things and they can't complete those things. because they lose those butterflies, that they felt when they started receiving the idea. And right now, I wanna share with you what I hope is gonna help you to build the staying power and the longevity in what you are doing. There's people who would ask me questions around, you've always been consistent, you always show up, you always do this, you are pushing no matter what. What's your secret? So it's not a secret, but let's talk about it, because I need you to really understand it. Very, very importantly so. I was telling my team the story of how, in fact, 2017. And I'm gonna tell you a story today. You'll figure it out for yourself. I didn't have money to put out this book, like zero. But I put out a date and announced that date on Facebook. And I said, on this particular date, which is the 17th of November, 2017, I'm gonna put out my book. This is like 40 days before that date. It was end of September or beginning of October when I made that Facebook post. I remember I was at my friend's house, Brian's house, in Block 10. That morning I woke up and I said, you know what, I've been saying this for a year or so in my mind. I want to put out my book. And that day I finally took my phone and I put out my mock design of my book, and I put it on Facebook and I say, hey, on this date I am launching my book. I've never had a post that trended in my life then like that one. People were starting to say, hey, congratulations, save me a copy, and they were trending. Bookstores starting to tell me, when it comes out, bring it here. People in the media saying, when it comes out, do you want to do a review now, or do you want to do a review when it comes out? So I did some reviews before it came out, and then I did some reviews after the story that I'm going to tell you. The honest truth here is the day before the book launch, I still didn't have money for my book. Mind you, I print my books in South Africa. There's a story for another day. Somebody was asking me questions. There's so many printers around. Why would you want to go to South Africa? One day I'm going to do like an entire podcast on that. There's so many publishers in the country. Yeah, there is. But I'll do an entire podcast on it to know why Mahang back then gave me advice to say, hey, go and self-publish yourself. I'll tell you the truth. If you have got budget for all of these guys, please, by all means, go to them. But if you're like me, you have nothing, but you have to put the book out, this story is for you as well. So I went to one of the people that was in the office where I was doing my business, and I told him, dude, I need to put my book out, see all the people. He says to me, why don't you tell the guys that want to buy the book to pay you in advance? And then you take that money and then you print the book. I went to the same guys and I say, hey, because you are paying for my book like tomorrow, why don't you like pay it now? And then we get the book out. And then they started telling me the reality of what most people see from all of these people on social media. They're like, no, I meant end of month. No, I'll get it next week. No, there's so many different excuses. And I go back to the same guy and say, hey, look what they're saying. And he says, now give me a good reason why I'm supposed to invest in a book that the people that love it wouldn't want to buy it. And I sat there and I told him my heart of why I want to put this book out. And I put myself I put my head on the X, and I said, dude, if it doesn't work out, cut off my head. And he said, okay, no problem. I believe in you. So he instructs his people in South Africa to wire the company where I print the money to print the books. So I head up to South Africa the same exact day. And when I got there, I asked the people, I need my books the next day because I'm launching that book in the same exact day. And I remember I was there in Midrand, and when I was at the printers, they were like, we haven't even started printing your book because the money that your guy has sent has not reflected in our account. So I have to go back to my guy and say, they want you to send them a proof of payment, that they at least do that. And I was there from 8 in the morning. that proof of payment wasn't there in the late afternoon. Remember, the bus that I needed to catch to get back to Botswana was leaving at 3, and the launch was literally the next morning. So when I was there, I had to decide, what do I do? Do I go out? So what I did was I got on the bus and I came back. Not that day before the launch, the day of the launch, because I stayed there another night there to see if these guys wouldn't do something, and I get the books. And they started printing them at 11:30, and they said it's gonna take 6 hours. 6 hours from 11:30 was the time of my book launch to start here. So I left them, and I got on the bus and I came. And throughout, I'm seeing on Facebook people, putting their black and yellow attires together, saying, yeah, it's going down later on today, and they were doing all of these things, and I'm watching. And I remember that day, I missed the bus, and I started hiking from Johannesburg to here. Long story short, I've seen what happened the whole time. How you'd hike this car to take you to a different city than the one you're supposed to go to, and now you have to connect from there, here and there, here and there. I had all the reason to cancel all of that. Now, for those of you who didn't know what was going on at the time, I'll tell you. At 3 o'clock, when I was still in Rustenburg, the UB revenue office was closing it in 30 minutes, at 3:30. And at the same time, those guys were telling me, if you don't pay for this venue, we're going to close those doors. You're not going to have your event. And I still held on to this faith and say, you know what, my book launch is going to happen, one way or the other. I told my mentor about it and say, hey, the situation I was telling you yesterday has not changed. And he asked me, what are you going to do about it? And I said, we're going to march forward. So a friend of mine called me when I was still in South Africa, and he said, how are things? And I said, look, this is the whole story. We don't have the books, number one. Number two, those guys want to close the venue. Number three, people are on their way to that venue. So he popped out the money, they paid for the venue, and people packed in that hall. And I came in without the book. And I have seen myself launching this book when but your wedding is going on. Do you understand? It can happen, but that's exactly how it is. People came for that book launch, for that particular book, but the book that was being launched, the only thing that was there of it was a mock design of it on the screen. And here's what I've always learned. I was to host this other guy from South Africa, was a young millionaire, whatever. There was still famous Forex guys at the time. So I had the opportunity to say, hey, come over, and he said, you want to come? Same day of the event, the guy didn't pitch up. And the same room was still packed. And I had to go in front of the same audience and tell them the truth of what happened. Do you know what all of these people said to me? They said, we didn't come for your guy. We came for you. We see how you believe in him, that you want him to come all the way from South Africa to come and speak at your event. The same way you believe in that guy is the same way we believe in you. And that was the turning point for me to start, readjusting how I see myself and the work that I do. So I say this because I need you to know that to remain consistent is not like a mechanical thing that you'll be like, no, you have to do this, you have to do that. Because some of the things that you have to endure to remain consistent are extremely unbearable. To look like a liar or risk looking like a liar, to go through all sorts of things. And for those of my friends, they know what else was happening in 2017 in my life. I could not afford another blow. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's where I have learned to say, when I say I'm doing this because I'm passionate about it, what do I mean by that? There are things, so many things, that I do because I'm passionate about it, Ask my mom, we grew up in ZCC, have sporting coats, Bongedian, it was one of the things I was doing. Ask any man who's been in ZCC. It was a social club for Ngeri, social club for the boys. We'd work together there, they sing as loud as they can. It was fun. And what I loved about that church at that particular time was that I had never in my mind had an opportunity to travel to another place unless there was an all-night prayer, which we call a kosher, that was hosted in that village. The first time I was in Francistown was because I went through Mokosheng. The first time I was in Wapikwe, all of these things was because there were so many church events, I went there. My mom had a tendency of saying to me that we're going to go together to a certain event. And then the day of the event or the day before, she decides that she's not going because she doesn't have the faith enough to believe that without the money she can actually get there. So what I used to do was, because she was like the leader of the apartheid regime, whatever she says goes. So she would say to me, "You're not going," and she'll lock me up in her house, and then she I don't know where she hides the key. But what I knew is that when she woke up in the morning, I will be in Francistown, and she'll still be in her room. That's how every other time. That's how I've done that. So when I'm talking about how passionate I am about doing certain things, I'm talking about the resolution that I make to say no matter what is going to come through, I'm going to need to do what I need to do to get it done. When God says that do not be afraid, what he's actually saying is there is going to be a reason for you to be afraid. When God says, do not be anxious for nothing, it's because he knows there are many varied reasons within the path that you have taken that are going to make you anxious. When he says press towards the mark, it's because he knows there are things that are going to build themselves as a resistance before you. And unfortunately, to get to the other side, to always achieve what you have, you need a heart that is determined to do what it's supposed to do. We have allowed so many things to permeate our minds and our hearts and determines how we feel about ourselves. Before we could have a heart that believes for the dream, the same heart that believes about ourselves, it's also corrupted because of what other people has been saying about us, what we've experienced of life, and so on and so forth. So I wish for you that you get to this point where you look at yourself, the work that you do, and make decisions that will never be changed by anyone. Looking at what you are doing and what you want to achieve, what is it that you want to be the truth of what you believe about that work that you are doing? Some of us, we want to do things because when we posted about them on Facebook, people were clapping and saying, "Hey, congratulations." But when we put it out there on Facebook and nobody believes in what you are putting out there on Facebook, you feel like this person's idea is not going to work. Some of you, even if you don't realize this, you have sort of like created a space where it validates your decisions. People that clap hands for you on Facebook, unfortunately, they may say congratulations. That's their part to do. But ask any author who gotten more than one like for the book they said they're gonna launch. Ask them how many of those. It's been happening, all of this. In my head was like, I released a new book. The book has been there for years. I put out my book on Amazon for I don't know how many years, and I'll check the stats. It will always have 0, 0, 0. There was a time in 2020 results to come and reflect in your life. It takes a staying power that says no matter what people say, which is both positive and negative, you will keep on pursuing what you have to pursue because you believe in it. Read the story of Coca-Cola, you learn from it. How some people, said whatever they said. Read about BK Proctor. What people said about what he was selling, and you will know what I'm talking about. I hope today's show was an eye-opener for you, and it gives us the pleasure and the excitement to know very well that what we do, helps you in one way or the other. So I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be saying a goodbye to all of you. Thank you for being here on the show, all over YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thank you for being a part of the show. We'll be right back.
New ways to make dreams possible. Whether you are dreaming about starting a new business, securing a good future for your family, buying a new home, or owning a new car, your dream becomes real the moment you believe it can be. Khutsafalo with Stanbic Bank Botswana. Your dreams matter. Let's find.
For all of life's big and small moments, Temper Hollard Insurance Botswana. Our wide range of insurance products guarantee to get you and your loved ones back on track when life hits a short left. Better futures start with Hollard.